Hi everyone, so this video is looking at paper 1 section A, so your Othello extract, and looking at how you can use your 15 minutes prep time effectively and how you can use some tips and tricks to construct an effective response to the extract question, where often trying to find the debate or the argument can be a little harder for your AO1 and AO5. So there's some key questions to ask when faced with an extract. You need to ask where it's from in the play, and you need to know this. You need to think about what's happened before, what's going to happen after, where we are in the tragic journey. So all of these rely on your knowledge of the play, basically. And if you don't have a really solid knowledge of the play, everything you try to write about will be vague or inaccurate. Remember, particularly, there's some very long scenes in Othello. So knowing it happens in Act 3, Scene 3, for example, isn't necessarily good enough. You need to know where in Act 3, Scene 3, because things change very rapidly and you could be talking about the wrong part and then still be getting it wrong. You need to think about what's set up in here, so what the key sort of events are, who's on stage. It may be more people than are speaking, so be really aware of that, and think about what they know at this point. Where are they all? Because obviously everyone in this play is talking at cross purposes all the time. So what does each individual character know, participate in, have happened to them by this point? How are we feeling? So where are we in our journey? What happens in the extract? What do we learn about the characters in the extract? What changes in the extract? That's a really helpful one. So think about what is different by the end of the extract that wasn't at the start. That can be a really helpful thing for you to focus on. Where are our key themes and where are our aspects of tragedy? So that seems like a lot, but it should be stuff that you can tick off very quickly. But it's all about your knowledge and being able to see very rapidly, oh, this is the bit where. You shouldn't get an extract you're totally unfamiliar with, because you should know the play well enough that anything you got given you can locate. And that is one of the things I would really recommend you practice at home, is figuring out how to, open the play randomly and go, okay, so this is where this is happening, and Othello thinks this, and Iago is doing that, and Desdemona knows this, so that you are really well prepared. So these are our aspects of tragedy. You should be very familiar with this star chart. If you're not, you need to get it copied and printed out. But you always need to focus on where these features are in your extract. Okay, and you ought to do the same for crime, quite honestly. For your crime extract, you need to have those elements of crime and have those ready to go. So this is some advice from the exam board. So thinking about where the extract is set. Who's on stage, who said, does anyone enter or exit, who's dominating, what are they doing? So again, the same sorts of things I've said, okay? But it is really important that you think about this as a piece of drama. So it's not just the words that are said on the page, it's how it's performed on the stage. So the handkerchief extract that most of you have done, there's a physicality to that scene. They're close to each other. There's physical contact at times. Shakespeare's not big on stage directions. You have to know what this looks like. So you need to make sure that you've got that available. So your question will always be this: explore the significance of this extract in relation to the tragedy of the play as a whole. Remember to include in your answer relevant analysis of Shakespeare's dramatic methods. So you need to go, what are the most important things in the extract that answers this question? There may be something brilliant in it that you can't easily link to the tragedy. I'd find that unlikely, but there might be. In that case, you're going to have to just brace yourself and let it go. You have to answer regarding the tragedy. I would normally say you want to identify 3 aspects of tragedy to discuss in relation to this extract. So you need to know that star chart well enough that you can go in and go, okay, in this scene, I want to talk about Othello's misjudgments, I want to talk about the development of our tragic hero, and I want to talk about the sense of fate and inevitability, for example. So make sure you have got a specific focus on writers' methods, how Shakespeare has done something. So you need to be thinking about, right, how does it look on stage? Who's entering? Who's exiting? Is there a use of soliloquy or monologue in there? Is there an aside? Is there use of metaphor? Is there some really powerful characterization or use of setting. Have you thought about how it links to contextual factors? So what's Shakespeare trying to say about his world, and what influenced him in the first place to put it on the page? Have you got your aspects of tragedy, and can you connect them together sensibly? Because you are still marked for this as an essay. It's not individual paragraphs, it's one overall piece of writing. Now, my attitude is always that your annotations, the first thing you need to do is read the extract, and then you go through and annotate when you know what your aspects of tragedy are going to be. So this is one I did last year, and you can see I've colour coded it. I've got 3 aspects of tragedy. I'm looking at Iago's villainy in pink, attitudes to women in yellow, and Othello's change in green. And you can see really clearly, and I've also got some nice stuff there, orange, attitudes to race, because I can then link that to both villainy and Othello's change in there. And you can see really clearly, this is a very uncluttered annotation. This you could use to write an essay from, because I've got very clearly systematic ideas. So I can go, right, in my pink, I'm going to talk about Iago's villainy, and I've pulled out some really good ideas there. And then I've got some attitudes to women mostly located early on in this extract, and Othello's change mostly towards the end, including right towards the end of the extract. Now, it's always worth thinking about where the extract begins and where the extract ends, because either Shakespeare or the examiner have made some very specific choices about that. Because either Shakespeare's gone, this is how I want a scene to start, or this is how I want a scene to end, so why have they made that choice? Or the examiner has gone, right, we want to start it here, which means there's something relevant early on, and we want to end it here, which means there is a reason why we want to leave it at that point. So being really clear on that is really important. And as you can see, my notes on here, I've got links to various other bits. So like I'm linking it to Amelia, I'm linking it to Brabantio. I've got some notes on methods. So I've got my structure things there with my links. I've got some comments on wordplay and stuff like that. I've got this overview idea of it's surprising for the audience how quickly the green-eyed monster has taken hold. So what this extract is about, what changes here, is Othello. And that's what the sort of overall point I'm going to make is going to be. Okay, and then even my structure I've got at the end, right, this is setting up the rest of the plan here towards the end of this extract. So by being able to annotate it in terms of the very specific aspects of tragedy I want to focus on, this is a much more efficient use of my time, because I can easily write an essay from this because it's already organised, got notes, I can see where I'm focusing to enable me to work later on. You don't need more than this, but you do need it to be coherent. You have about 15 minutes in this exam to focus on getting your extract ready and getting your ideas sorted, and most people do not use that time effectively at all. Don't write on the extract until you've read it through once or twice, until you've got some ideas. Make a note of your aspects of tragedy and then annotate it for those only. Keep it organised, keep it clean. It will make your life a lot easier. So in your introduction, and so your sort of overview, you need to contextualise your extract and frame your discussion. So this is the start of an overview here. There is a whole other video on this called Writing an Othello Overview, so I'm not going to go into this much in more detail here. Go and watch that video for more help with how to construct these opening paragraphs. Once you've done your overview, you then need to think about basically constructing a fairly straightforward exam paragraph, which is what is significant in relation to tragedy, how has Shakespeare made it significant, and why is it important. So what gives you your AO1 and your AO5, your argument, how is your methods and your context, and why is your context and your links to the tragedy as a whole. So by answering those 3 questions properly, you will be covering all the assessment objectives. Okay, so all the way through, and this goes for pretty much every standard sort of analytical paragraph, what, how and why will get you through a lot. but you have to actually explain it. And most people either miss out the how, so don't talk to me about methods, or miss out the why, so don't link it sufficiently to context, to aspects of tragedy, to the broader points that Shakespeare is making. One thing I really would recommend is that you work on your topic sentences. So your topic sentences are your first sentence of each paragraph, and they are so important and so often badly done. Your topic sentence should follow a formula. It should identify a specific aspect of tragedy and ideally make a broader point about what Shakespeare is saying. So here you've got an example. In this extract, Shakespeare shows the Machiavellian development of his tragic villain Iago as he manipulates Othello's jealous responses, playing on society's ubiquitous fears of female sexual infidelity. All of these come from previous exam answers from my students. So here we begin in this extract, so we're very focused. We've got the writer's name, Shakespeare shows. So we're really focusing on the idea this is constructed by a writer. And then we've got our aspect of tragedy, which is the Machiavellian development of his tragic villain. We've got what's going on as he's manipulating Othello's jealous responses. And then we've got the broader point that Othello is not alone in being scared of being made to be a cuckold. So we've already broadened this out into the things Shakespeare is commenting on. So again, this one follows a similar structure. In this extract, Shakespeare emphasises the pitiable situation of his tragic victim. So that's our aspect of tragedy. As we see Desdemona's unwavering devotion to Othello, so that's what's going on, truly making her the contemporaneous epitome of an ideal wife. So that's our broader point, that Desdemona is actually everything Othello could want in a wife, and it's still not good enough. And our last example. In this extract, Shakespeare shows his tragic hero making the serious misjudgments. So there's our aspects of tragedy, our tragic hero making misjudgments, which will inevitably lead to the tragic climax. So we've got some structure, showing the audience that even apparently contented and clear-thinking men are susceptible to falling prey to our baser fears. So there's our bigger point, is that even if someone like Othello, who is actually intelligent, well-respected, in a good place, is able to so easily fall prey to this silliness, then couldn't we all? So all three of these follow the same formula of here's an aspect of tragedy, here's how it's applicable to this extract, here's its wider significance. And they, at the start of a paragraph, would really set you up with some confidence in the student who was writing this, that they knew what they were talking about and the points they were going to make. It's absolutely key that you keep it focused on aspects of tragedy. It's one of the things the examiners are trained to look for. So really make sure that the start of each paragraph tells me what aspect of tragedy you are writing about. If that isn't obvious, you are really going to start to struggle with your AO1 and your AO5. So remember, you've got 15 minutes to prepare your extract, use it well and be disciplined. Practice. There is no excuse for you not being able to go in there with a plan. You should have a set of highlighters, you should have some coloured pens, and you should know how to deal with this extract. If you don't, that's because you've prepared badly. If you don't know the play, you're going to struggle. So all of this comes down to, do you know what happens to each character at each point in the play, in what order? The other thing that needs to come out of these is most of you need to be writing more than you are. So I'd expect around 3 sides of standard A4. I can do a little more than that when I do it. You need to practice. You need to practice writing quickly, writing clearly in those conditions. Okay, you need to write more than you think, and a lot more than some of you are currently doing. Clear topic sentences are very helpful for signposting your essay. In this question, it can be quite hard for AO1 and AO5 to become apparent, that sense of your overall direction of your essay. So topic sentences can really help you with that. And then your conclusion for these should return to the overall significance of this extract, to the whole play. So you should be taking a step back again, putting it back into context and going, so overall we can see that this extract where this happens is vital to the tragedy as a whole because, and some big overarching big ideas sorts of comments at the end.